Hello friends, my name is Dil Sandhu and I'm a CICC licensed immigration consultant based out of Ontario, Canada. Today we will talk about a deep analysis about the master's graduate stream, what makes it a really good stream, and we will also talk about how you can apply for that, what is the eligibility criteria, and I have done an analysis and I'll show you how you can meet the minimum requirements which are needed and what is the historical average of kind of scores which are coming for people to get invited into the specific stream. So it's really going to be a fun exercise as well. So if you are looking at a PR option and you have done bachelor's from India, abroad, or Canada, this might be a really interesting option for you to consider, right? Because there are many reasons. One of them is there is no job offer required for this specific stream. Secondly, you don't have to worry about, buying, selling LMIs, which is all this unscrupulous things happening in the Canadian immigration. Another thing I would say is that, getting a master's degree would really have an advantage for your rest of your life, right? And finding a job is all the more easier if you have done a master's stream. And most important, very, very easy to get PR. That scoring criteria is very simple, and the eligibility score is pretty low as per me, and it's very easy for you guys to qualify for that. So without any further ado, let's go right into it. So OMP master's graduate stream and easy PR option. So let me just give you an overview. One, uh, you don't need a job offer, as I was alluding to earlier. So you don't need a job offer, which is a requirement for most of the PNPs. So this is a really interesting one. Another thing is Ontario is the only province which offers a master's pathway to PR in which every program is eligible. For example, if you look at British Columbia and some other provinces, they may have like specific degrees from specific institutions which might be eligible. In Ontario, if you have done it from public universities, which are pretty much almost 30 universities, you could have done any master's program as long as meets the criteria, you would be eligible for this. So let's look at the eligibility. One is your education. You have to have at least 1 year of academic year of full-time study in Ontario from the eligible university in the master's program. Your language requirements are pretty low, CLB level 7 or higher in English or French in all abilities. Residency, you must have legally lived in Ontario for at least 1 year in last 2 years before you apply, right? And this could be cumulative. So you could have lived here for 6 months, lived 4 months somewhere else. That should also work. Settlement funds, very easy to get that. So those are the same requirements. You either need to have bank statement or if you have a job offer which meets that requirement, so that might work as well. Intention to live in Ontario, pretty much as long as you have can show that you have lived in Ontario, you have studied in Ontario, it's not that difficult. So residency at the time of application, you should be in Ontario at the time you apply, or you should be outside Canada. You should not be living any other province other than Ontario at the time you apply. You need to have legal status in Canada if you're in Canada, right? Which could be a work permit, study permit, or your visitor record, or any of that matter. And the application period is that you have to apply within 2 years of completing the requirements to obtain your master's degree. So those are the requirements. So let's quickly look at the master's program from the Ontario universities which are eligible. So pretty much I would say there are around 30. So starting with Algoma University, Carleton University, McMaster University, all the top names: University of Guelph, University of Ottawa, University of Toronto, Waterloo, Windsor, York University, and so on. So there's so many universities. If you have done master's program from any of these universities at this point in time, you would be eligible for the program. And if you have look at the scoring factor, so eligibility is one condition. Then you also have to, in order to get invited, you have to have a minimum score, right? And there are certain scoring factors. So the way they look at the scores, what is being scored is, for example, your status in Canada, for example, whether you have a work permit or study permit, your earning history, your highest level of education, field of study, Canadian education experience, language scores, and how many languages do you know, for example, English and French, and your regional immigration. So location of the study is what we are looking at here. So these are the scoring factors, and these are the minimum scores you can get. These are the maximum scores you can get. For example, if you have a valid work or study permit status, you can get, if you don't have that status, you will get 0 points. If you have, you get 10 points. Similarly, earning history in the last 5 years, based on your notice of assessment from CRA. If you ever earned 40,000 and more in the last 5 years, you will get 3 points. Your highest education, I mean, you can't get 0 points because anyway, you will have done masters, by the way, to be even eligible. So if you have done PhD, there are 10 points. That's the highest you can get. Field of study, it depends upon what is your field of study in which you did your masters. For example, it could be arts or humanities, it could be business administration, or it could be STEM field or trades or any of those. If it's STEM trades, you are going to get the maximum points, which is 12. And then Canadian education experience, how many credentials do you have? Do you have, you have done only masters or you already did bachelors as well? In that case, you will have 10 points, otherwise you will have 5 points. Official language, less than 6 anyway is not eligible because the eligibility is CLB level 7, and if you have above CLB 9, you will get 10 points in all abilities. Knowledge of official language, you know 2 languages, let's say English and French, you will get 10 points. Location of physical study, if you are in Toronto or online, you will get 0 points. If you are in Northern Ontario, you will get the maximum 10 points. So the minimum scores anybody can get, which is unlikely, which is 10, and the maximum score you can get is 75. Now let me talk about a very interesting thing, which is the historical data on score. And these are the draws which has happened in 2023. And if you can look at that, in January 2020, in January 25, 2023, the scores were 44. And then in April, we had 52. In June, 46. August 1 draw, it was 48. August 30th draw, 44. And the recent draw, which is September 19th, it was 41. And if I have to look at the average score, which is around 46, right? So if you have scores in the range of 46, there's a very high chance that you will get one of the draws. You will meet the condition based on this historical data. So it's very, very important to understand how to get these 46 points. So I will do an analysis and show you how you can get these 46 points or even more, right? So let's go and let me show you my Excel sheet where I have done put some formulas to just arrive at how do you can, someone can get the scores. So let's do some analysis right here on this spreadsheet. Let me just zoom in a little bit so that you can see this. So these are the scoring factors, right? So we know that last draws were at 41 and average score was 46, right? So now I'm just going to show you how you can see that. Okay, so let's look at the first factor, right? For example, if somebody is without the work permit, let's say they are on a visitor record, in that case they will get 0 points. But my assumption is that if you are already in masters, you most likely going to apply for postgraduate work permit, so this will most likely going to be 10. And earning history in the last 5 years. So for example, I would assume that most people would have some done bachelor's from abroad or in Canada, and they may not have worked at all, right, in Canada. So let's look at they will never have earned 40K or more in the last 5 years. So that would be 0 points. The maximum you can get is 3 points, and let's say this is 0 points. And then highest education. So highest education, I would assume that anybody who is coming and who has completed his master's degree in Canada, their highest education can never be less a college diploma or bachelor's, but that's anyway the eligibility criteria. So if it was PhD, it was 10, and if it was master's, it is 8 score. Then you have come to the field of study. So this is talking about the Canadian study. So this highest education can be from both Canada or abroad, right? As long as you can show the education credential assessment for that. Now look at the field of study. In field of study, if you have done your master's in STEM, health, or trade, you get 12 points. But if you have done in master's in business and administration, legal, behavioral science, and so on and so forth, then you get 6 points, right? And if you have done it with arts and humanities, then you'll get 0 points. So what does it tell us? It also tells us that if you're looking at any program and if you are abroad or you are in Canada, so always try to opt for STEM field if it's possible, or at least business administration and those kind of things, so that you have a higher chance of at least getting some points for your master's program, because that's make you more competitive. So let's assume that somebody's in business administration, business and administration, or in education, they have done like masters in education, from, let's say, University of Windsor. So let's consider that as 6 points. Then you have Canadian education experience. Let's say they have done one credential. So what they're looking at is how many credentials do you have from Canada. For example, you could have done a bachelor's in Canada and then you have done the master's, then you will select more than 2 credentials. The maximum points you will get is 10. But let's say you have only done master's, then you will have 5 points. So let's assume that person has only done master. Then you have the official language ability. For example, how much score did you get? I'm assuming nobody's going to get less than 7, because if you get less than 7, you are not even eligible for this program. So it has to be CLB 7. So that's give you four scores. Then knowledge of official languages. So how many official languages do you know? So official languages in Canada is English and French. Let's say you know 1, you will get 5 points. If you know 2, you will get 10 points. Let's assume it's 5. Now it comes to location of physical study. This is very interesting, right? What does it tell us? It tells us that if you would have done your program from Toronto, you will get 0 points, right? But let's say if you have done your program from inside GTA, you would have got 3 points, but except Toronto. So this means that you are not in Toronto, but let's say you have done it from, for example, Mississauga, Brampton, or any of those places in the GTA. So that would have got you 3 points. Then there is something called as other areas outside GTA. So this could be Hamilton, this would be Ottawa, this could be Barrie, this could be Guelph, this could be so many different places, and you get 8 points. Just imagine if you have done your studies from outside GTA, you would have get 8 points. So that would have even reached that magical number of 46, which was the average score for 2023. And let's say if you have done from Northern Ontario, you will get 10 points. But let's say if you have done your thing from your study from Northern Ontario, but you did it online, you will get 0 points, right? So it's very important to understand that. So let's say you have 8. So already you have met 46 points. Let's say somebody has done it from Toronto. What is the other option they have? So they should always look for increasing the score in this. So that will get them very, very close to that magical number. But they could have been invited in the recent draw as well, because the recent draw was 41 and 44. So that is something which they have to look at, how they can, they would have been still very good chance that even after doing it for Toronto, they would have qualified. But having said that, if you would have done from STEM field and you even had a minimum score of CLB 7, that would also get you very, very close, right? So this is how interesting it is, that this is the way you can improve your scores as far as eligibility for master stream is concerned, right? So going back to our slide, so what is the process to apply? You register your OINP expression of interest system, you complete the attestation form, and if you meet the criteria, you will receive an invitation, and you apply within 14 calendar days and pay the fee. And if you're nominated, then you have to apply for non-express entry permanent residence application to IRCC within 6 months, and you have to notify of any changes which happens during that period. Maybe your immigration status, or there's your family status has changed, or anything. For example, you got married and those kind of things, right? So this is very, very interesting. So if you need my help, feel free to reach out. My number is 437-848-7200. And you can book an appointment. My website is www.dilimmigration.com. You can email me at info@dilimmigration.com. And since you're most likely going to be watching on YouTube, this is my YouTube handle @RealDilSandhu. So thank you so much. I hope you find this useful. If you did, please do like and subscribe to the channel. That would mean a lot to me. Thank you.